COVID-19 spreads from person to person through the droplets that are produced when someone coughs or sneezes, which makes it easy to spread between people in close contact. Now let's get prepared to stay healthy. To reduce your chance of catching or spreading COVID-19, practice these simple everyday preventative measures. Droplets can also land on surfaces, so ensure that you wash your hands frequently for a minimum of 20 seconds or sing the happy birthday song twice. Avoid touching your face, especially your eyes, nose, and mouth. If soap and water are not readily available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with an alcohol content between 60 and 90%. 70% is ideal. When you cough or sneeze, cover your nose and mouth with a flexed elbow or a tissue. Dispose of the tissue immediately and then wash your hands. If you notice someone has a fever and cough or other symptoms of respiratory illness, avoid close contact when possible. Let's all do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. Our health is our collective responsibility.
The following is a national address by Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honourable Keith Mitchell to update the nation on plans to address challenges posed by COVID-19.
Fellow Grenadians, Carriacouians, Peter Martinicans all. The pandemic COVID-19 virus has resulted in a globe crisis that is unlike any one we have seen in our lifetime. Over 250,000 people worldwide have so far contracted COVID-19. We are thankful thus far that no case of the virus has yet been confirmed here in the trial state of Grenada, Carriacou, and Martinique. Nevertheless, we know that it's only a matter of time, given the introduction of the virus in our region and its rapid spread around the world. We must, therefore, continue with aggressive measures designed to lessen the impact when the virus does hit our shores. The Ministry of Health continues to lead from the front in this regard, and we are forever grateful to the leadership and the men and women on the front lines who selflessly stand ready to execute their duties. I also want to commend, especially, and recognize the National Strategic Committee on COVID-19, which continues to meet daily to strategize and coordinate efforts at the national level. Our government has taken a very aggressive, proactive approach in the fight against COVID-19. By now, you would have seen or received many information on public service announcements, posters, text messages, television and radio commercials, and hundreds of social media posts from the government, encouraging, among other things, proper hygiene and providing regular updates on government's efforts to protect Grenada from the contracting and spread of COVID-19. Last week, we began to practice what we termed as social distancing. And moving into this week, you would have seen constant updates on travel advisories with restrictions for high-risk areas such as the United Kingdom and United States. We are also currently moving to close our seaports for yachts and leisure boats in the immediate period. Screening of passengers allowed to enter Grenada has been aggressive and sustained at our ports of entry. In these coming days and weeks, you will continue to see heightened measures related to self-quarantine, and when the virus is officially confirmed here on the island, total isolation of confirmed cases. Sisters and brothers, we have carefully studied the lessons learned from China and other countries hardest hit by this virus. We have twined those lessons with scientific data from the experts, which support our approach in fighting COVID-19. Scientific data show that countries that have been best at managing the outbreak and spread of COVID-19 have done so through a combination of testing, contact tracing, public awareness campaigns, and a commitment to abide by quarantines and social distancing protocols. Border protection measures have also proven to be invaluable in this fight. I am grateful to our friends and partners who understand that as a country, and even more so as a small island, we have no choice but to do all we can to safeguard our shores. I also thank the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique for doing what we as Grenadians do, come together in a time of need. I realize it has been challenging to make the many sacrifices and adjustments that we have had to make over the past several weeks. But by and large, we all understand the necessity of such timely and comprehensive measures. Our progress to date and our continued progress will depend on our collective commitment to keeping Grenadians healthy, for what we are all in this together. Even with all this, the global crisis that is COVID-19 also comes at a tremendous financial and economic cost for citizens, the business community, and government alike. We understand the anxiety for individuals, families, and communities. As a government, even while we explore various avenues to ease the anxiety of our citizens, and while we anticipate that the private sector will meet payroll obligations at the end of this month, we must push forward with some preliminary concrete measures that are designed in the interim to infuse some form of positive financial and mental impact on our workers, our businesses, and also socially vulnerable. Towards that end, for the next 3 months, April through June 2020, in the first instance, the government of Grenada will take the following measures. 1. Work tirelessly to avoid staff layoffs and the loss of livelihood in the tourism sector by providing $20 million worth of payroll support to the hoteliers, restaurants, bars, small travel agents, and income support to public buses, taxi drivers, tourist vendors, and other such identified hospitality-based businesses. 2. Adjust the small hoteliers facility at the Grenada Development Bank to support all hoteliers by injecting an additional $7 million to this facility. 3, work with the NIS, that's a national insurance scheme, to provide unemployment benefit support due to the fallout of this pandemic, initially estimated at $10 million. 4, suspend the 2% increase in NIS payments for this period. 5, encourage the trade union movement to work with the business community to support the use of vacation leave as a first option in the event of the businesses having skeleton staff. 6, expand the public sector investment programs in an effort to boost employment at the community level. 7, suspend the monthly advance payment on corporate income tax for the period. 8, suspend installment payments on the annual stamp tax for that period, and that is the 3-month period in question. 9, expand the small business soft lending facility at the Grenada Development Bank by additional $5 million. 10, place on the price control list certain cleaning items to prevent price gouging at this time. This will include, but are not limited to, hand sanitizers, bleach, hydrogen peroxide, and hand soap. 11, follow all necessary exemption protocols to provide incentives to private labs and medical facilities procuring items to support the fight against COVID-19. 12, increase farm labor support to immediately boost agricultural production island-wide. Government is also giving consideration to the support for farmers and fish exporters who have recently been affected as a result of the international travel restrictions. Additionally, now that the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes Tribunal has delivered its ruling in the arbitration between the government of Grenada and WRB, government commits to ensuring that the cost of electricity will be reduced by 30% for the months of March, April, and May in the first instance to all consumers. This will not apply to a few companies that have special concessionary arrangements. While it will not be reflected on the bill in this particular period, future billing cycles will highlight this reduction as the administrative process is being finalized. Our financial institutions have also agreed in principle to provide a moratorium on principal and interest payments to their clients on condition for the 3-month period in question in the first instance. Friends, sisters and brothers, fellow Grenadians, the measures outlined are intended to be preliminary as we continue to work towards our longer-term actions as this crisis unfolds. We are encouraged by the spirit of cooperation that existed among us only a handful of years ago when we went through our homegrown structural adjustment program. Broad-based consultations and support, as we are seeing now from all stakeholders, including the business community, the trade union movement, the churches, the non-governmental organizations, and civil society, enabled us to achieve a feat between 2013 and 2016, the likes of which we have not seen in our country in the past. A non-existent 2013 economy grew steadfastly by an average of 5% during and after the structural adjustment program, and was set to maintain that pace again this year prior to this pandemic. It is that same sense of spirit and cooperation, unity and resilience that we rely on now to see us through the current health crisis, which has, of course, significant economic and social impact. As a government, we are grateful for the sacrifices and support of our social partners and citizens over the years. It is because of those sacrifices that we have a small cushion now, that with the support from the international community, we can see us through several of the lean months ahead as we brace ourselves and fortify our country to weather this crisis. We continue to work with our friends and partners, such as the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, and other institutions and friendly governments to pursue any other avenues that will provide us some measure of stability. We are grateful for their continued support. Sisters and brothers, friends, the word global has never had more meaning than it does today. We are all currently facing the same crisis and very similar challenges, and no one can afford to be myopic or bigoted in this fight. We have no choice but to work together, and that includes the rest of the world and with each other here at home. We are, for better or for worse, our brother's keeper through this crisis. And we must continue to demonstrate at every turn, beginning with the simple act of washing our hands frequently with soap and water. Let me therefore use this opportunity to commend all stakeholders and the general public for the support provided to the government of Grenada in enforcing, promoting, crafting, and adhering to the guidelines provided to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. I ask, therefore, that you continue to do your part, and the government will continue to work tirelessly to do its part, and more so create an enabling environment in which we can still live, learn, work, and play when this is all over. May God continue to lead and guide us all in these challenging times as we continue to rely on His wisdom, His strength, and His protection. Stay tuned for more updates from us in the days and weeks ahead. I thank you.
The preceding was a national address by Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honourable Keith Mitchell, updating the nation on plans to address challenges posed by COVID-19. Prime Minister to update the nation tonight on government's plans to deal with challenges being posed by COVID-19. Details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Friday, March 20th, I am Leslie Ann Johnson. Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honourable Keith Mitchell will deliver a national address at 8 o'clock tonight to update the nation on his government's plans to address challenges being posed by COVID-19. Dr. Mitchell is expected to address the economic and financial impacts of COVID-19 on the economy. The address comes on the heels of the latest advisory for citizens to avoid non-essential travel to Iran, South Korea, China, the USA, and Europe, including the United Kingdom and Ireland. The advisory states that Grenadian nationals or residents will be self-quarantined for a period of 14 days upon arrival into Grenada from any of the above-mentioned countries. It also states that effective Friday, March 20th at 11:59 p.m., non-nationals who in the last 14 days have been to Iran, South Korea, China, or anywhere in Europe, including the UK, will be refused entry into the country. And effective Saturday, March 21st at 11:59 p.m., the USA will be added to the advisory. The address will be broadcast live on the Government Information Service Channel 22 as well as its Facebook page. As Grenada continues its response to safeguard and protect the health interest of all Grenadians, Health Minister the Honourable Nicholas Steele on Friday led a government delegation to a face-to-face meeting with trade union leaders to discuss the country's ongoing preparedness and response to the coronavirus. Continued public education, partnerships, the national response, reasons for taking early action and possible next steps, as well as the economic impact on workers' safety were among some of the areas discussed, and from all indications the meeting was cordial and positive. Following the meeting, the Honourable Nicholas Steele, the Minister for Health, Social Security and International Business, and union leaders spoke with members of the media.
In general, there is the agreement that we're all in this together. There were relevant discussions on the health and safety of our citizens as a whole, but in particular with each and every representative here, their members specifically, and also the other pertinent issue that is on everybody's minds, the economic impact that this would have on a nation, and again, from each individual union representative here, specific to their membership. There were discussions on all of those. There is a consensus as to where we are now and that we must continue to work together on it.
Andrea Lewis, the president of the Trades Union Council, expressed gratitude for the efforts made by the minister to keep abreast at this time.
We are convinced that we are on the right page. Obviously, there are a number of things that are standing still given the fact of our resources. But the report that has come our way is that efforts have been made to source what is necessary. We have given our commitment to continue working in the interest of the nation. So we would be prepared to help in the educating of our members, and to be calling on our members, that we are using this medium to do, to pay particular attention to the information and requirements coming from the Ministry of Health. This thing is serious. We cannot be over-prepared. It is better at the end of the day, we all look back and say, well, yes, it appears as though we are over-prepared, rather than saying that we are sorry we did not do enough.
Representative for Public Sector Workers Rachel Roberts is supportive of the actions of the Ministry of Health.
We want to reassure our healthcare workers that with the Ministry of Health, we are working assiduously to support the Ministry of Health and to ensure that all the necessary systems are put in place for their protection, for their occupational health and safety in this crisis. And that we expect that also healthcare workers would take the necessary responsibility that they also have to ensure their health and safety.
Friday's meeting was also attended by Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Mr. Charlton Henry, Acting Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Francis Martin, Dr. George Mitchell, the former Chief Medical Officer, who is coordinating Grenada's national response, and Labour Commissioner Cyrus Griffith. A marine and yachting advisory issued for Grenada says effective 11:59 p.m. on Friday, March 20th, all crew and passengers aboard pleasure craft and those living on board will not be allowed to disembark on the shores of Grenada, Carriacou and Petite Martinique. All passengers and crew are encouraged to make contact via VHF and follow prescribed procedures for receiving their supplies and fuel as needed. Prior to 11:59 p.m. on Friday, all vessels already in the state of Grenada will be allowed to remain, but must follow the established health and safety protocols. The Immigration Act of Grenada states that no person shall enter Grenada except at a port of entry. A person entering Grenada by sea shall not disembark without the consent of an immigration officer, and the master of a ship shall not allow any person to disembark without such consent. The Ministry of Health, through the Sanitary Authority, says any person who contravenes or fails or refuses to comply with any of these provisions will be fined or detained. This is the National Report. More news after the break.
COVID-19 spreads from person to person through the droplets that are produced when someone coughs or sneezes, which makes it easy to spread between people in close contact. Now let's get prepared to stay healthy.
To reduce your chance of catching or spreading COVID-19, practice these simple everyday preventative measures. Droplets can also land on surfaces, so ensure that you wash your hands frequently for a minimum of 20 seconds or sing the happy birthday song twice. Avoid touching your face, especially your eyes, nose, and mouth. If soap and water are not readily available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with an alcohol content between 60 and 90%. 70% is ideal.
When you cough or sneeze, cover your nose and mouth with a flexed elbow or a tissue. Dispose of the tissue immediately and then wash your hands. If you notice someone has a fever and cough or other symptoms of respiratory illness, avoid close contact when possible. Let's all do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. Our health is our collective responsibility.
And finally, in the news, Minister for Education, the Honorable Emmeline Pear, says her ministry is putting plans in place to ensure that the education sector is secured through a level of professionalism. Models and ideas have been brought forward to safeguard the quality of teachers recruited.
There was a time when we were pretty comfortable with coming from outside to the inside and starting to teach the day that you get on the inside, meaning I'm recruited on Friday and I start teaching on Monday. And for a very long time, we were very comfortable with this. But we have come to the realization that there's an urgency to change that. So just as you go to prepare to be a nurse or a doctor, it means that we have to now be looking at professionalizing the service a lot more than it is now. So we go to learn to teach, and then we get recruited to teach. And I think that would also increase the possibility of recruiting people who really want to teach.
She says in the interim, government has been providing tuition support to increase the expertise of both principals and teachers in the system. Minister Pear says training and development must be a critical factor in the workforce to ensure efficiency.
What we have been doing additionally over the past couple months is that we have been providing full tuition support to a number of teachers. I am certain right now we are close to about 100 teachers who are on full tuition support from the government of Grenada. Right now we have an entire class, over 20 teachers at SU. They are actually studying psychology, and they are studying psychology with the intention of providing better service for special needs students. So these are persons who are in the special needs unit within our schools, and they are working with special needs students, but we realize the need to train them even further, and we are saying the total cost of that training, we have looked at the possibility of funding that in full.
And that's the National Report. I'm Leslie Ann Johnson.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.